Meeting of Liverpool City Council for the 29th of May 2024 officially open. I'd like to remind everyone that in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, other than the public forum section, this meeting is being live streamed. To start today's proceedings, I would like to welcome Pastor Stephen Reddish from the New Life Christian Ministries, who will read the Acknowledgement of the Country, the Prayer of Council, and the Affirmation. Could I please invite Pastor Stephen? And ask everyone to please stand.
Of Daru Nation, I also acknowledge that this land was Today we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by Council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations, the best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, Councillors, the staff of Council, and those associated with good government in Liverpool. Let us pray. Father, we come to you today in the name of Christ Jesus, and thank you for this opportunity to serve our community of Liverpool. Father, we thank you for this great city of Liverpool and the people who live and work here. We recognise the task that we have is essential, and that we thank you for all the gifts and abilities that you've given to each of us so that we can carry out our duties. Holy Spirit, we humbly ask that during our meeting, you lead us, guide us, help us to treat each other with dignity and respect. Guide us through the agenda and assist us with the difficult decisions we will make. Holy Spirit, we ask, help us to make decisions that will benefit the Liverpool community. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. We have one councillor who's requested to attend remotely. Councillor Carney, I move that it be accepted. Second, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We have no apologies. We have one condolence motion. Regarding Tony Bleasdale, OIM, Mayor of Blacktown. It's with great sadness that we reflect on the sudden passing of Councillor Tony Bleasdale, OIM, who was the Mayor of Blacktown City Council on the 2nd of May. Our thoughts are with Tony's family, friends, and the community of Blacktown. Tony arrived in Australia from Liverpool, England in 1963 and worked in the building industry as a bricklayer for 40 years. He would eventually be elected as a Blacktown City Councillor in 1996. Tony was a strong advocate for his LGA and a champion of Western Sydney. Tony was proud of Blacktown City's diversity and dedicated to delivering services and opportunities for its residents and businesses. He was a charitable man and received an OIM in 2010 for his community work and service. After a 3-year tenure as Deputy Mayor commencing in 2016, Tony was elected Mayor in 2019 and emerged as a visionary leader, spearheading the transformation of Blacktown. I will personally remember Tony as a gentleman's gentleman. I have fond memories of touring Blacktown's facilities with Tony and discussing all things Western Sydney and local government whenever we bumped into each other. He was a lovely, generous man and a passionate Liverpool Football Club supporter, which is very important. In Tony Bleasdale's honour, please join with me in observing a minute of silence. Thank you, everyone. And I'll just move the mayoral minute. Oh, Deputy Mayor.
If I may, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to echo those sentiments to Tony's family and all who knew him. I served with him for a short time on the board of West Rock, and a more passionate man for Western Sydney and his community you wouldn't meet. So there are big shoes left to fill, and he leaves a lot of fond memories for the people of Blacktown and surrounding areas.
Yes, and if I may as well, Mr Mayor, I've worked with Tony again on West Rock for the last 7.5 years, and I have always appreciated his help and his mentoring and his ability to be able to engage in discussion even when objecting to some of the issues that were presented. He was an honourable man and a thorough gentleman, and indeed I join with the Deputy Mayor in saying that he is a man that will not be easily replaced. And I give my heartfelt condolences to his family. Thank you.
Any other council would like to say anything?
Yes.
Councillor Calianda.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to join my fellow councillors in expressing my condolences on the loss of Tony Bleasdale. He was a real fighter for, in inverted commas, the little person. He was a unionist, he was a Labor man, and he was someone who always fought for those who may not have had a voice. I had the pleasure of working with him and meeting his lovely wife Nina on many occasions, and also with his son Nick, and I give my condolences to them on his big loss, not just for their family but for the entire community of Blacktown and for Western Sydney more broadly. So I'm glad that you've brought this motion to council, and I'm glad that we're able to express our condolences on his loss.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No worries. Thank you, councillors. Our next item is confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting held on the 24th of April and on the 14th of May. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, I declare it carried. Next is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest today? No. No declarations. We have no speakers in the public forum. No representations. We'll now move on to straight into the agenda. First item is Plan 01, housekeeping amendments to Liverpool DCP 2008 and Conservation Employment and Zone Reform, which is on page 60. Tab 1 with the recommendation on page 61. Moved Councillor Harrell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Green. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's a planning matter. Would you like us to open up the voting, or how would you? Yes, we'll open up the voting. Councillor Carneeb, can you just indicate whether you're voting for or against, please, Councillor? Councillor Carneeb? What?
Hello?
Are you voting for or against?
For.
For. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Next item is Plan 02. Quarterly report, clause 4.6 variations to development standards. Moved Councillor Harrell, seconded Councillor Ramoon. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. Once again, there will be a planning matter, so we'll have to do another vote. We'll open up the voting again. And Councillor Carneeb, if you can indicate whether you're for or against, please.
For.
Wonderful. I declare the motion carried. Next item is Plan 03, page 70, tab 3, with recommendation on page 71.
Happy to move that way as recommended in the book.
Move Councillor Rhodes. Seconded Councillor Green. Would you like to speak for your motion, Councillor Rhodes?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think that it's been a long-awaited policy that we've needed for the heritage issues that face council. I'm a very much believer in policies and procedures, and I am extremely grateful for the work that council has done in providing this policy for us. So I'm happy to see it and I'm happy to recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question, if
Yes,
I may.
Deputy Mayor.
In the local heritage management policy, I just noticed that there is multiple references to once the council webpage is launched. Do we have any ETO when that might be?
I'll refer that to the CEO.
Deputy Mayor, was that in relation to when the website?
So it just says that once is... There's a few references once the page is launched. I just wondered if we had that there's some time frame on that.
I'll just refer to Director City Futures.
Program for that, so I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Is any other further discussion? No? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it unanimous. Next item is Plan 04, request to proceed with the preparation of planning proposal to Heritage List 124 Moore Street, Liverpool. Page 106, tab 4, the recommendation of page 108.
I'm again happy to move that, Mr Mayor.
Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Green. Is there any discussion? Councillor Harrell?
Am I being heard? That's better. Yes, look, I'm actually against this. I believe that that property, if that is heritage listed, that will be a disadvantage to the owners of the property in that it will reduce the value of the property. I'm also against that the refurbishment of the place. It's falling apart. It's not the sort of thing that you would spend a lot of money on. It hasn't been used for at least 10, maybe 15 years. And I fail to see why we should spend a lot of time and effort on that when that could be better used. And I actually had a question for the legal team that if that property were to be sold, considering that initially they were given that property by the people of Liverpool for a very low amount of money. I think initially it was £60 in the 1930s. Over the years, the Scouting Association has been benefiting the use of that property. But I think they also have some obligation to the community. By that I mean if that land isn't usable the way it is at the moment, I can't see of something being rebuilt there. What I would like to see, if it's legally allowed to be done, is to allow them to sell or dispose of the property, but a percentage of that comes back to the community for community use. Don't know if that can be done, but that's the sort of thing that I was thinking of, rather than just put a heritage order on it, which would devalue, in my opinion, the property, and I think nobody benefits from that. So the other way I would think is if it were sold, disposed of, whatever, the land is quite valuable in that area, and some of the profits of that go to council for community use. I'm not sure if that can be done. I think we need to ask the legal team for information. Thank you.
Councillor Harrell speaking against. Are there any speakers for?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Hull's opinion, of course. It's interesting that we've just got a heritage policy. I think it's very, very important for us to abide by the decisions made by council. They've put a lot of work into this report. And it is local heritage significance. And that is vital that we continue to support, to maintain our local heritage items that are significant to Liverpool. It's not a matter of us deciding, the owners of this property. It should not come into it. It is a point of, is it of local heritage significance to Liverpool? And that's what we are deciding here. I note that the Scout Association got this property for a very, very low sum, and it is very disappointing that it is going to be sold. And, I can't see the Scouts establishing something in Liverpool to replace the significant service to Liverpool as they once did. I'm a little bit disappointed that the Scouts do not appreciate their own history, or it would seem. but it is locally significant heritage. And for that matter, I think that we should be making decisions based on that and leave the sale of the property as a different matter and item altogether. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We've had one speaker for and one speaker against.
I have a question.
Yep.
Given that the Scouts has made it pretty clear that if the property is heritage listed, they don't intend to refurbish or, upkeep the property in any way, is there a way to actually, ensure that the community can benefit from it? Because in its current state, it has graffiti on it, it has, fencing around it. It doesn't actually benefit the community in any way at the moment. Is there a way of requiring rectification works or a way of it actually benefiting Liverpool?
So if I understand the question, Councillor, is that are you concerned about the quality and status of the building, i.e. so if they were forced to upgrade it, that's one element, can council force them? Then on the second part, no?
The nature of my question is if we vote to continue with the heritage listing today, my understanding is that the Scouts have no intention of making any changes to the property as it currently stands. So we kind of are again at an impasse. What are the nature of the discussions or the negotiations from the operational perspective, and how can we actually encourage them to provide some benefit to the community?
So you mean, I guess, encouraging the private, because ultimately it's private property, it's not community land, it's zoned as private land. So how can does council have any ability to encourage a private landowner to open up their land for community use?
No, given the current negotiations, which I imagine have been conducted by staff, can the acting CEO please speak to what the negotiations behind the scenes have been?
Yeah, on first principles, the extent to which council could influence a private landowner to do anything debatable, but I'll revert to the Director of Planning and Compliance as to any conversations, because I'm certainly not privy to any of the negotiations.
Through the CEO, thank you. The extent of the negotiations have been in relation to the heritage listing of the property. In terms of your question with respect to upgrading or upkeep of the site, we can compel a private owner to the extent that the upkeep of the site or the lack of has an impact on amenity or creates some sort of a nuisance. Anything beyond that, I can potentially discuss with my colleagues as to how we could engage with the landowners for community discussions, community-based use discussions. However, to this date, the only negotiations that have taken place are limited to the heritage listing of the property.
Does that satisfy your questions, Councillor? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Green? Are you speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for it. I totally agree with my councillor colleague, Councillor Rhodes. I guess it's pretty sad when you read the report, the reality that there's very little of our history that is actually left. And I think in terms of the historical value and the cultural ties, remembering that the hall was built at a time in the Depression, and remembering this is a working class area and the sacrifices that this community made in building the hall for the Scouts in the beginning. And I think from a moral point of view, in terms of how upkeeping it or doing something with it that respects the heritage and respects Liverpool in a way. So I agree with, as it's written, I would support the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No, if there's no further speakers, I will put the motion as moved by Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Green, which is the recommendation. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? I declare the motion lost. The next item is Plan 05, the draft principal planning proposal to establish a new Liverpool LEP, page 192, tab 5, with recommendation on page 194. Yes, Deputy Mayor?
Happy to move, Mr Mayor, but I have a couple of additional points that I have sent through. Thank you. So I'll just give councillors a moment just to have a look at those additional points, and I thank you for the indulgence of time to get that right. But I think this answers all the questions or addresses all the issues that I had.
So you're not deferring it?
No, I'm not deferring it.
Happy to second.
I think that'll remove it. Oh, it's all up on there?
I can speak for the motion if you would like.
Just 1 second. Happy. So you moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Rhodes.
With the second dot point, when you're saying encourage key site development, do you mean in terms of signage, or do you mean actual development of the site into, potentially residential or commercial space?
So what I mean by that Thank you. Yeah, would be to get some development of those sites. So if you think about those ones that I've listed particularly, and there may be others, and that's why I've said not limited to, the Hume Highway at Warwick Farm coming in, we always talk about how that's not a hugely welcoming entrance to our LGA. The same with Newbridge Road at Moorebank, and the same with Elizabeth Drive. There are some areas that we cover, but it's not an extensive list, and so that all entrances to the LGA, I think, should be welcoming of an LGA. So I'm happy for people to discuss, and I'm after that information and guidance from staff.
So just to confirm, you mean by key site development, you mean gateway signage?
So, yeah, more than signage. So looking at developing those sites that are entranceways to our LGA.
Yep. Councillor, Deputy Mayor, did you want to speak for it first, and then we'll get into the questions and everyone can make
thank you immensely for the huge amount of work that's gone into this. Thank you to the Director and all the staff who are sitting over, and probably glad that we're moving on, I'm sure. It's a huge document, and it takes a lot of time and consideration to get it right. We haven't done it since 2008, and we've done it well now, I believe. We've had a lot of opportunity for assistance and workshopping. I think we've been very mindful of the fact that we need to consider the best way to deliver housing for our community. We know that we need more housing. We need it. We need to do our part in council to make that happen, to initiate and make that happen. It's given us an opportunity to look at these gateway sites that I've mentioned here as well, so that when you're coming into our city, that you know you're coming into our city, that it makes a statement when you come in. And also, not everything planning-wise is in our LEP and under our control, but, you know, we want to reaffirm with the Department of Housing and Infrastructure that we do want to, as quickly as we can, increase the supply of housing for jobs that are fairly well shovel-ready. So I'm pleased to put this motion forward, and I just wanted to be clear also, sorry, that those were additional points, that doesn't forget all the points that were above in the recommendation. I've just noticed that. Yeah, no, sorry. All of the points above plus the plus those additions.
Yeah.
Can I just bring your attention to point 1? Investigate options to encourage basement in low density residential zone. Can we do R2 and R3 low density? Is that possible? Because that'll open up all the issues, that'll take away all of the issues that we've got currently in the streets, where people are resulting to park in the streets. If they were able to do those basements, they can probably park in their basement.
Sorry, microphone, please. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, while I was speaking I should have gone through that a little bit more carefully as well, and that is the intent of point 1 there. We all know that we have issues with parking on streets, and with families growing and staying home longer than they would have traditionally in the past. Parking can be an issue, but we have heard from people who are willing to build when we're in the very early stages of this LEP review that it's difficult to justify having basement parking if you're going to be punished in the size of the home you can put above the basement. So this will give people options. We've got people staying at home longer, we've got more cars, and this will provide an option for people who want to build in our LGA.
Mr Mayor, we should look at that carefully then with those alterations. The R2 low density residential zone, because we've included the other zones now.
Could probably get rid of the word low density and
That's
just put
exactly
R2 and
right.
R3 zones.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. Just to go back to point 2 again, if the idea... Sorry?
Is that okay if we can finalise point 1, then we'll go to point 2?
My understanding was that it was changed.
No, it wasn't. We're probably looking at taking both R2 and R3.
Yeah, well, just one point at a time. So we'll finish point 1, then we'll get to point 2. Sorry, can you put your microphone on, please, Councillor?
If we can remove R2 and R3 out of it.
I thought we were removing words like density and having R2 and R3.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Okay.
Can I get clarification from the staff? What is the officio?
The preferred approach is to leave R2 and R3.
Is it? Okay.
Kelly Andrew, what was your point about point 2?
So just going back to point 2 again, if the idea is that it's not just signage, that it is, a range of measures to encourage a more welcoming site, does that include uplift of the site? Or can we just tighten that up a little bit, because it is a bit unclear?
Can you just clarify what exactly?
I'm just trying to get a clarification as to what exactly is the intention of encouraging key site development. Does that mean that those sites along those identified locations will be, given or encouraged to apply for uplift, or in terms of increasing density? What does that actually kind of, practically look like?
So what does it mean by encouraging gateway site development? No, I'll refer to the CEO.
Who will refer it to the Director, Planning and Compliance.
Thank you. Through the acting CEO. Typically, gateway sites or key sites are referred to sites that may be afforded with additional density controls to meet a certain set of objectives for their positioning and for their prominence. So, yes, in answer to your question, it would include an uplift in density controls if that investigation revealed that they could be considered gateway sites.
My concern is some of these locations, so for example, Elizabeth Drive from Flowerdale Road to the Hume Highway is quite a significant stretch of road. So if we're encouraging uplift or increased density along that entire stretch, given given traffic considerations, given the constraints there at the moment, would that invite more difficulty than actually resolve? Because I take Councillor McNaught's point. We want the entrance points to Liverpool to be welcoming, but I don't think increased density is the most welcoming thing always.
I believe it is an investigation at this stage, so having a look to see what the sites are going to look like will probably give us a clearer idea of what's happening.
Can I please go through the chair?
Yeah, I'm actually directing my answer.
Thank
to
you.
the chair.
Well, we've just received housing targets today, from my understanding, just a couple of hours ago from the state government, Department of Planning. There's no one's received them. No. So my understanding is we just received the target from the state government where we need to put an extra 16,000. Let me get it for you. 16,700 dwellings in the next 5 years. So now that is probably double the amount or almost double the amount that we normally deliver on a yearly basis. We budget for around 1,700 dwellings, I think it is, roughly. We did that in our budget. So when you're looking at 16,700, divide that by 5 years, what's that? That's 3,000 of the 17. Mr. Matham.
Man, not to cut you off, and with respect, I'm just seeking clarification on point 2 and what that actually involves. Appreciate.
Were you not satisfied with the answer?
No, I think that was very informative. But I think in terms of the actual wording of the motion, does that sort of reflect that information?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I agree.
Well, I think let's get the question answered, please, if we can, through the CEO.
Through the Director of Planning.
Through the acting CEO. Councillor, can I just clarify, is your question in relation to whether the locations are reflective of key sites or gateway sites?
No, just what key site development?
Sorry, through the chair, please, and if you could put your microphone on.
My question was around that phrase, encourage key site development, and whether including signage, gardens, entrance uplift and density controls is an accurate reflection on what is being proposed there. I want to be quite clear.
Okay. Through the acting CEO. So remembering this is a point that has been put forward by the councillors, we would have to investigate, but typically reference to key site development would be inclusive and not necessarily inclusive of all or necessarily exclusive of any particular element raised in that wording, but typically that would be inclusive of additional density. Signage is a common part of key site development, again, not necessary, but from a strategic planning perspective, density controls are often afforded with key site development. So if there was an investigation and it would be reflected that those sites could be considered key sites, also depending on whether we want to take that planning approach in the LEP, then typically that would come with additional density. There are options in terms of how to apply controls, and that could be through key site development or other means where we would encourage controls based on mapping, based on size of sites, as we've done in the city centre. But assuming key site development is the approach, yes, that would typically come with additional density controls.
I can see what my colleague, Councillor Caliander, is saying. We have a gateway entrance, which is quite different to a broader length of road, which is more inclined to the density controls. The question that I have, are we intending to change the densities at those stretches of road from the at Elizabeth Drive from Flowerdale Road to the Hume Highway? I think that's the question that is being asked. Or are we still being contained by the existing zonings in those areas? That's the question I think is being asked.
Yeah, thank you. Just before I go to that, did you have something
I just
to say on
wanted
that
to
as a
say
move
that,
of the
you know,
motion?
point two starts with the word investigate. And so I think that we're probably getting a little bit too deep into the discussion about, I just want some investigation into how those entrances to the city could be uplifted to look like welcoming entrances to the city. So I imagine through that investigation that we will have lots and lots of discussions about what that looks like.
Yep. And I think the Director of Planning effectively did say that, you know, gateways generally, if you are going to have gateways and you're going to encourage development on a gateway, that would potentially lead to more density on the site, in simple terms.
I'd like to speak for the motion.
Yes, Councillor, go for it.
First of all, congratulations, Council and councillors. Thank God we're on target and it's going to be resolved in time for the necessary timetable for this to be done. I understand, I'm a little bit confused about that, but as this is to go out on exhibition and we're going to encourage our community to engage with council and tell us what they feel, and that will be coming back to council. I'm quite happy as it is written, and who knows, perhaps we'll even get some better ideas from the community. So I'm still very much in support of the motion, and I thank council, I thank councillors that we're finally putting this one to bed. Thank you.
Councillor Harrell?
Yes, in principle I agree. The problem I see here is we've got three places that we're sort of looking at: Elizabeth Drive, Hume Highway and New Bridge Road. We've got far more entrances, critical entrances into Liverpool than just those three. Right? I know you.
And I was going to say, please add to it if you'd like.
So, first of all, one of our main ones is when you're looking at Casula, that's one coming into Hume Highway. That's an important one, and we have got gateway entrance works
The crossroads.
there. The crossroads,
yeah.
exactly. The other one that we conveniently forget is 15th Avenue. 15th Avenue at Hoxton Park, that's another main one. It's disgusting the way that looks with the grey walls around the intersection.
Where? Which intersection are you referring
This
to?
Cow Pasture Road and 15th Avenue and Hoxton Park Road. That main intersection there, very, very busy. Thousands of vehicles every morning, every afternoon. We should do something to make that look better. And I have asked in the past that maybe we should be putting murals there to reflect the Western Sydney Airport being the entrance to that there. They're the sort of things, when we're talking about gateways, that's what I'm looking at, not necessarily density. It's the appearance. We need to attract people to Liverpool and we need to make the place look neat. Warwick Farm, that area there is disgusting. The AJC, hasn't done anything for years. They've been promising and nothing's ever happened. You know, they're the sort of things, if we want to put Liverpool on the map, we should be doing those sorts of things. So in terms of that, I agree, Councillor.
So just on that note, Councillor Harrell, back in, I think, 2015, we installed the gateway signs on the, not directly at the front of the ATC, but we have one on the corner of Gum Macquarie and the Hume Highway. We do have one on the crossroads and stuff, which look beautiful, and the staff do a wonderful job maintaining them, and they've kept that standard, which is really good. So I think if looking at expanding that, I know there are some signage going up soon. Some neighbourhood signs, which could probably help play a role into that. But I think maybe that's a discussion. Maybe it's a motion for if you're talking about the physicality of landscaping and signage at gateways. Maybe that's a discussion we can have at the next council meeting if you want to put a motion up about that.
Through the chair, I think it is like Deputy Mayor mentioned, it is an investigation and it's not limited to those as per the draft there. So we can look at whatever gateways we've got in terms of Hoxton Park Road between Bonera Road and Flowerdale. There's many there, so if they can come back to us with a list of gateways that we can have a look at, that'll be great.
Yeah, and I think as much landscaping, Councillor, to your point, is that as much landscaping as you do, there is still that physical building, and what do we do with it? I know there was talk about Heritage listing the Grand Sand Hotel on the Hume Highway. You know what I mean? But as a part of our important heritage, but that what they call it, that's not there anymore. It disappeared before that happened. Councillor Rhodes.
Mr. Mayor, as I said...
Sorry, Mike.
It's on. As I said, this was just suggestions, and as it's going out on exhibition, there should be many more suggestions coming in. But as we're adding to them, one of the most important ones, I think, is so that we signify that out at the airport, you're on Liverpool local government LGA land. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. I held back because I thought, let's see what the public's got to say about it. But that's one that I would be advocating for very, very strongly, that when you get off that plane, I want everybody to know that you're actually in Liverpool.
Yep. Councillor Green?
I'm just wondering, in looking at what the recommendation was in the book and then looking at this motion, I'm wondering if we're actually discussing two different things. So the gateway seems to be very specific and also quite complex in terms of, are we talking about what kind of gateway kind of process are we talking about? Are we talking about beautification? Are we talking about residential? So I'm just wondering if it's actually two rather than the one.
I think that's why I was just referring to Councillor Harder is beautification is one thing, but we're dealing with the LEP. So this is about planning controls at gateways. Gateway is I know when Frank Sartor did, I think one of the original, when he was planning minister, he had a whole bunch of gateways in, I think it was a planning document at that point in time, which, basically put a little circle around an intersection and said, this is a gateway entry. There should be an increase in density. There were design competitions. So in this instance, we're referring to gateway as a planning term versus gateway as a landscaping term.
That's enough for the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Oh no, I haven't had my turn yet. So,
Just in terms of the motion, if the idea is that there is a process of investigation, then perhaps it's wise to remove those locations from the motion, just keep it very general and then come back with a more comprehensive list of locations, because it seems to be obviously something that does require a little bit more discussion and complexity.
But not limited to.
Which is fine, but I think it does, the actual kind of investigation does require more discussion in terms of what that looks like, what's appropriate at different locations, etc. So for the ease of just facilitating a discussion like that, it would seem a bit more prudent to kind of remove those locations and keep that general, because I feel like there is broad agreement on the idea of something like that, but what that looks like in a little bit more detail requires more discussion and investigation.
can I ask through the CEO, is that with these items that they be investigated, how does that affect the process of the LEP?
Through the Director of Planning. Through the Director of Planning.
CEO, could I please ask for clarification as to whether you would like the investigation to be completed pre or post gateway? So it would affect the process in that the investigation would take time, but it can be done and then we can send it off to the department for gateway, or we can send it off to gateway and then undertake an investigation and consider at that point in time whether it can form part of this amendment or potentially a future amendment, and cross that road when we get there.
I think in terms of referencing those areas, they're actually referencing areas on the south, north, west and east of the LGA. So typically they're not identifying those specific ones, just similar to those. So not limited to, takes that into consideration.
Mr Mayor, I wonder if it is more appropriate, following the discussion, we're all in agreement with it in principle, and I think that we need to get this through to Gateway. We don't want to hold it up. So I would suggest that I think I tend to agree. We know the possible areas. I think that we should be agreeing with the LEP and sending it to Gateway, investigating these things separately. So can we word it in that way so it isn't expecting it to be done before we send this off to Gateway?
Could we, in this, we've identified there's a few points there. I do think we should take out the 15th Avenue and Cow Pasture Road because it's a very low residential area. There's nothing that's high there. I think that's more of a landscaping one, Councillor Harrell. Yep. So if we can remove that, if the mover and second are happy with that. I guess when you look at this, right, Newbridge Road, the first opportunity for any development on Newbridge Road is pretty much the old Flower Power site, which is going through planning at the moment. There's maybe not the. I know there's a couple of. There's the marina. There's already stuff happening at that intersection. That's one. We see the crossroads. That does make a lot of sense. That is once again. And so the couple of the other ones. What I'm getting at is, could we, as a median point, that we effectively, when we send the LEP, we don't delay it, we send it off, but we highlight these intersections, no different than what was done in the previous plan, the one I mentioned for Frank Sato, and I figured that document, whether it was a 2000, maybe in the 2008 or 2006 document, but says, look, these are gateways. We've identified them as gateways, and we are continuing investigation through concurrently while we're going through Gateway. And when we say we foresee potential opportunities for increased density, potential, through a process or which we're finalizing. That way it doesn't come as a surprise to them. Right? Because I think as well, on that point, we haven't got to that one, but the other one regarding, I think the same with Amendment 52, that, we should, looking at that, hopefully we can do that quickly rather than, rather than have it being held up. Is everyone happy with that sort of approach?
I think, Mr Mayor, that it possibly is complicating the matter. Perhaps you could put the word investigate possible gateway sites to eliminate the inference that these are the sites that should be investigated. And we should leave it open. I would take out all of the suggestions that we've got in there. And this is going out on exhibition. Okay, so hopefully we'll get engagement from the community, and let's hear what they say. We can add these things after it comes back from the community consultation about it before we send it to Gateway. But I really do not want to see this held up over this matter. And our task here is to approve this or resolve it in a way that it will go through and we can get it through to Gateway.
Well, just before we get to that, because that's something that needs to be changed, I want to bring up some other issues which there are, I guess, some concerns about. The corner on the intersection of Hoxton Park Road and the Hume Highway. There is the land to the east, which is from, what's that, Mill, I think it's Mill Road to, is it Atkinson, roughly? Up basically from Sky House to McDonald's there. That land is currently zoned infrastructure zoning for to be acquired, my understanding, from transport. In this, what's before us now, transport has requested that we remove that and we change that to is it residential zoning? Or is it a enterprise zoning? Now, the issue is that land has always been reserved for the grade intersection at Hoxton Park Road and the Hume Highway. And that intersection is that's the main set of lights that runs all the lights in Liverpool. Everything happens based on what happens at that intersection. And if we're now saying that transport does not want to build that grade intersection, that grade separation, that is very, very, very significant and worrying for us because that means we're just going to be stuck in more and more and more traffic. So I personally, I would recommend that we remove their request and keep that to its current zoning. I'm happy for views on that matter.
Can you point that out in the motion where
It's not in the motion, but I'm saying it's within it's in the book. I will have to go through 1,000 pages, but I'm happy to if we can maybe refer to the CO through your staff to look into.
Yes, we'll refer back to the planning and make any adjustments on bespoke sites because there's going to be a number of individual requests as we go through the investigation and public feedback.
So, Mr. Mayor, does it necessarily have to be in here? Can we address this when it comes back to council?
No, I think ultimately this is about saying, does council want the grade separation or not? And if you're indicating any land use change to that land, you're basically saying we don't want that. And that is insane for us to do that, beyond insane. It should not even progress. Just because they requested it, we should not be doing it. It's just they're giving up. And we know that traffic is our issue here that we have. And if you don't, you can do whatever you want. You can widen every road, but if that intersection does not have a separation on it, we're gone. And we already know that with the intermodal, how bad that's going to be. That's going to be it's already projected in 2036 from the Cumberland Highway to the Hume Highway, that it's going to be, to travel that 3 kilometers is going to be around 45 minutes. And we need that separation. We obviously need Brickmakers bypass as well.
If I can add a comment, Mr. Mayor, when you...
Yes. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I think, in this discussion, I thank you for bringing that point, is that, we've seen recently with land that was set aside for educational purposes. I know this is a different scope, but, and we've been encouraged to change that zoning and then we realise, hang on a minute, that's not a great idea. So this is a similar thought process. If we want this intersection, if we change this now, we're basically saying we're okay with it and we don't want to reserve that land for what we really need it for. So, thank you for bringing that.
If you go to page, thank you, Deputy Mayor. If you go to page 206 in the agenda, you can see there that there's another one, and I'll let those who are very passionate about Grove Street to maybe talk about this. But so if you go point 2, transfer for New South Wales, it says additional consultation occurred regarding transport of TFN New Service on TFNSW owned sites and zoned SP2 infrastructure is requested to be relinquished and rezoned to adjoining land uses. So you've got 27, 29, and 39 Grove Street. I think Councillor Moon, you were saying that would make great open space. And currently, if you do change the zoning, if anything, if they don't need that, you can we make that private recreation? Or we couldn't do it public, could we, because we don't own it? Or because government owns it, can we make it public recreation? I think, they're indicating they don't need the land. So Because no, I think we can make that public recreation, because I'm pretty sure on Newbridge Road we're proposing to change R2 land, which is in private ownership, into yeah. So, and then you see the next point, 300 to 324 Hume Highway. TFNSW noted this land was surplus to the requirements of the Hume Highway corridor and have abandoned the upgrade. Have abandoned the upgrade.
Have we made an alteration to the motion to cover that? It's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yep. So my view would be, one way of doing this is that the next point, that we reject the rezoning on 300, 325 Hume Highway and keep it zoned infrastructure.
324.
300 to 324. Yep, 324. And we strongly encourage, as part of that, we strongly encourage Transport for New South Wales to continue with that upgrade. And I would say for 27, 29, and 39 Grove Street, Casula, note Transport for New South Wales communication that it's surplus land, and zone that to public recreation. Yeah. Is the mover and second happy with those points?
Yes, I'm happy with those points. Thank you for bringing it up. It's something that I didn't.
Sorry, through the chair, can I just have a look at the whole motion again once we're finished? And thank you very much for keeping up with us.
And I don't know whether we'd finished with the previous motion number 8, was it? I can't see it on the screen at the moment. Possible gateway sites.
We'll go back to that, because in a moment, put that. The other one that I've got there's a concern about, and I'm happy to hear from the staff, is that on Newbridge Road, that I know we're acquiring the properties as we progress, and it has been going on for probably 30 to 40 years. But are we now, and then once we acquire them, we can change them into public recreation land. So are we now saying that we're going to change them all to public recreation land as part of this process?
I might just refer to the Director of Planning Compliance.
Through the acting CEO, we do change the zoning once we obtain ownership of those sites. We change them over to RE1.
Yep. So on page 205, if you go to point 1, 2, 3, so point 3 says, apply the RE1 public rec zone to sites acquired by council under the scheme along the river. Yep, tick, no worries. Then not the fourth point, the fifth point, RE2 private recreation. Minor changes are proposed to the RE2 private recreation zone land, which is on, as noted, the recreation section of attachment 8, comparison to LEP 2008 mapping. Can we just bring that up, please? Because I read that as saying we're not going to make it public recreation because it's not public ownership, but we're going to still change the zoning from residential zone land to public recreation land. And I have a concern, as I'm sure many of you would, that if you have your house zoned for a house, that it becomes zoned to recreation land while you own it, which would potentially significantly devalue the land for those people, which I don't think is a right thing to do. Your house, it's your house, You bought at that zone, and it shouldn't be negatively changed. So could we just get some? Could someone bring up that map for us, please? Happy to give you a couple of minutes if you need to. Which one? Oh, it's like.
I might just ask the Director of Planning and Compliance or one of her staff just to assist the technical team on getting the correct map up on screen if there's anybody in the room. Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, okay, that's Wilson Road. That's Rose Street. Do we have Newbridge Road? If you want to just leave it as is and zone people's house recreation, we can do that. Right? And then you want to get the phone calls and try to undo it. You know, when it affects their insurance and their land valuations and deal with those, that's fine. I'm happy to stop this now if you want to. The reason part of deferring this was to make sure that we're across the detail.
Do we know how many houses would be affected, Mr Mayor? Maybe you can help us out.
I'm not exactly sure, but I think there's around 50 houses approximately left to acquire in that area.
And they're running along Newbridge Road where it floods currently, so they're not allowed to do any renovations to their house.
They can do up to 10%.
They what?
They can do up to 10%. So they can do renovations to the house. They can, but they're very limited in scope what they can do.
And so when you say if they've got an existing DA, we wouldn't have...
No. What I'm saying is their land value, when they do a valuation for their mortgages, would say it's worth X. One of the factors is the land, size of the land, the zoning of the land, and the improvements. If you turn around and now say, oh, your land is now public recreation, and they're like, well, no, I bought R2 zoned land, that will affect the evaluation adversely. So if we drop that, so then if their bank wants to turn around and say, oh no, we want a new valuation because we don't believe we've lent you, for example, 80% on a property that's worth $1 million, but now our new valuation is $800,000. Hey, fine, you will significantly harm people because they'll have to come up with some extra money. Right? That's one element of it. The other stuff is what was the other point? insurances, but they're already problem with insurances, yeah.
So if these are houses that are slated to be acquired under the voluntary acquisition scheme, I don't think that we should be changing the valuation of the house that we're going to eventually acquire. I'm very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, exactly. Pardon?
I'll ask a question through the CEO to Director of Planning. Is that the outcome, or does it mean that once the house has been acquired, that the land then is deemed to be RE2, to be deemed public?
Acting CEO, thank you. So our practice is to only rezone once we own the land. There might be a few variables here. I think I'll refer to Luke in a moment. There are a few state-owned sites. There's also a site that's part of the Border Marina development that is being dedicated as a park under community title, and that's why that's being rezoned to RE2. But I will refer to Luke Ostate, Coordinator Strategic Planning, to elaborate.
Thank you. Through the acting CEO. It's a big proposal and confusing, so I think there's a bit of confusion going on, obviously. In terms of the buyback scheme at Moorebank, we only rezone land once council owns it. We cannot legally rezone land that's privately owned to a public recreation purpose where no one could build anything without a funding mechanism like a contributions plan or a VPA. So none of that is proposed in here. There is a number of housekeeping or anomaly amendments occurring where we're rezoning sites either from or to RE1 public recreation. Those are detailed and were shown on the screen. I think this is correct. They're in attachment 8. That typically is involving land that is either owned by a council or another state government agency where there's an error. We're either rezoning it from something other than RE1 to RE1, or in some instances from RE1 to another zone. You can see the first one is the Rose Street Depot. We're zoning a part that is currently indicated as public recreation, but it's actually part of our depot, so it's being rezoned to reflect an SB2 depot infrastructure use. The one below, you can see that one is owned, stop me if this is painful, but I can go through the half a dozen or so. So this is owned by the Muslim League of New South Wales. It's actually currently zoned public recreation. We're putting it back to R2 because there is no land reservation acquisition plan to buy that site, so that's a problem. So we're giving them back their R2 zoning. If you go to the next one, it's a similar story. It's a retirement village in Prestons where it's mistakenly zoned public recreation. Again, we're putting them back to what they should be. The next one is owned by us and designated as community land and therefore simply being zoned to reflect that. The next one is Leacox Lane, Casula. Currently National Park zoning applies, but they don't want to acquire that land anymore, so it's going back to public recreation for regional open space. I believe that's owned by another state agency, and there's some more detail there. It's been acquired by the Planning Ministerial Corporation, so state-owned. Next slide, next one is Castle Rock Court, Wattle Grove, a small slither of RE1 that shouldn't be there, so we're reinstating that entire block to be R2. And that's it.
All right, good. So it's not all the properties on your project? Okay, great.
No, definitely
Thank
not.
you.
Only once they're acquired by council. So it'll appear like salt and pepper with a bunch of R2, a bunch of RE1 because we're not finished acquiring them all yet.
Fantastic. No, that's very good to know. With regards to the Grove Street through the CEO, so would we then, do we make it private recreation or public recreation? That's the one that they wanted to zone, that they asked that we change it to R2.
Transport for New South Wales at the corner of Sky House. We would need a funding mechanism to rezone it to be acquired either by council or another state agency. Currently, it's to be
Sorry, I meant Grove Street, the one that we talked about earlier. 27, 29, and 39 Grove Street, Casula. We were going to change it to R2 on their request. But would the correct zoning be public recreation or a private recreation? Probably private if we're not going to require it. State
Do
land.
you have a page, sorry,
206.
of the agenda booklet?
Public recreation.
Grove Street, Casula.
And does that force, through the CO, does that force us to acquire it?
It would force us, yeah. So if we're going to rezone land that was to be acquired by transport and is currently in SP2 zoning, if we want to change that to a public recreation zoning, we need a funding mechanism such as a contributions plan or a VPA.
For either one.
We don't have one of those currently.
So we just keep it as is? Keep the infrastructure zoning on it, and then we write to the state government, ask them to dedicate it to create public open space.
Through the acting CEO, I'm not sure of the legal ramifications of that. If a state agency has made it clear that they no longer want to acquire that land, we should be rezoning that then to reflect that that burden no longer exists. For instance, there's a number of properties on the Hume Highway where landowners currently are burdened and unable to develop because the zoning reflects a future acquisition, which Transport has said they no longer want to progress with. If we keep it as SB2, we're stuck where both Transport isn't going to acquire it, however the zoning restricts any future development to occur.
Can we bring those ones up on the map, please?
Sorry, through the chair. So who owns those properties at the moment? Is it Traffic for New South Wales owner? Or are they putting to acquire them? Who owns them at the moment?
It's reading like it's maybe private zone ownership.
Through the acting CEO, they're privately owned at the moment.
Sorry, microphone, please.
So currently they're owned privately, you're saying?
Correct. So they haven't yet been acquired by Transport, which that was the plan for some time. They've now said they no longer wish to acquire them, so they do remain in private ownership so far.
So what is the problem? It is currently their land. It's no longer going to be required by Transport New South Wales. It should go back to being their land.
It doesn't look, when you look at the map, it's a park in the middle, Gymes Park. And then the land, from what I can see, doesn't look like it's fenced off. It looks like it's part of the park. Could we just have someone once again, one of the blocks looks like it's part of a house. Could we just have a quick, if someone could just have a look for us, the ownership of that land, please? Because I think it's important as well, because we need to ensure that if we're changing private land, we've got to make sure that we don't have a conflict or anything regarding it as well.
Through the acting CEO, apologies, we did give incorrect advice. Grove Street is owned by Transport. Hume Highway isn't.
Hume Highway isn't.
It's privately owned. Grove Street is currently owned by Transport.
Yeah, and can I say but there's a house there, number 39. Is that part of it? Yeah, number 39 looks like it's half house on the same block and then half green space. Which is a little bit weird. On that note, we have had a request that we have a 5-minute recess. If you could please look into that for us. And I just have a general view that if Transport can lodge their own planning proposal if they want to change it and justify it, especially with regards to the Hume Highway, knocking off a piece of infrastructure that's been planned for a good 50 years needs some good justification. But on that note, I'll declare a recess and we'll get back at 3:35. Thank you. Resumed at 3:44. So if you can just close that door as well. Thank you, Peter. All right. Did we find out who owns that, was it 39 Grove Street?
Through the acting CEO, it's privately owned currently.
And so 39 is privately owned. 29 and 27 are owned by, through the CEO.
Through the acting CEO, Transport for New South Wales, currently, according to our records.
Right. So I would recommend if we can, on page 12, sorry, on point 12, can we remove 39 from that, please? And I would say, look, I think just keep it as is. So as in keep the zoning, as is. So if you look at the maps, if you go there on Street View, it's pretty much those 27 and 29 form part of the park. So if we adopt this, we're kind of zoning public open space. So I would say that we keep 27 and 29 as is, and accept and change 39 to R2. As per the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I thank you for all these great and tremendous contributions that you're making, but I wonder if it is better for council, so that we can fully consider what you're saying and understand exactly what you're saying, that we approve the LEP even as it is, and take these as your suggestions for amendments to be considered when the consultation period is over. That way we'd have time for you to present it all and show us exactly what you mean, because I'm sure it makes perfect sense, at the next governance committee meeting.
I'm not prepared to put this out and go to the community of Grove Street that we're going to be, we're supporting that what is open space at the moment to them, that we want to make it residential, and then upset them and create anxiety for them and for the community when it's evident. So it's...
But wouldn't we just explain that, yes, we do have amendments that we're waiting for it to come back?
No,
That's
I think...
not feasible?
I wouldn't think so. I think we're just creating angst for no reason.
That we can immediately calm that angst and say, we've already picked that up and we're going to make that amendment before it goes to Gateway. I'm just...
No, it wouldn't be. This is because what you're saying is do it post Gateway. You know, this is going off. You know, you just put. It takes 2 minutes. I guess that's why we've had.
After the public, or
Yeah,
goes to public consultation
Yeah.
after we send it to Gateway. Of course.
Yeah. Councillor Goodman.
Can we just go up to point 9, please? For point 9, change the northern boundary to Memorial Avenue, southern boundary to Charles Street in Amendment 52, and further investigate any additional sites within the city centre. So, northern boundary to Memorial Avenue, southern boundary to Charles Street.
Deputy Mayor.
Just for clarity, as the mover, so the northern boundary to Memorial Avenue, southern boundary to Charles Street of Amendment 52 boundaries, is that what
Yes,
you're... Okay,
that's
thank you.
Are you happy with that? Seconder happy with that? Well, we'll go through all that.
I think I am the seconder of this motion. I didn't expect this many changes to be made, and considering how much work we've done on this and how much time we've dedicated this, you know, we had ample time to do all this, and I just find it distressing that we're trying to do it now and trying to understand these very, very important points that we're saying. So
I don't know if we actually had opportunity. We had opportunities at the previous council meeting where this was deferred, like during
governance meeting,
Yeah, but you know
that's when it was to be discussed, and it would have been really great had we have been able to have all these great suggestions that I haven't thought of. But, I feel like we're doing it on the run. Again. I don't know what we could do. I take your point that we don't want to put things in there that we're not supporting.
Would you prefer then we defer it and deal with it next month, or have an extraordinary meeting?
No, we cannot defer it any longer. I think that was made clear to us, wasn't it?
Well, I think it's about making sure it's correct versus just sending it off, because we could have done that 3-4 months ago when it first came to us.
Yes, but we've had 3 or 4 months from when it first came to us to make all these alterations.
No, we didn't, because we didn't have. A council can't make a change. It has to be considered by
the
council.
governance committee. We've had this how many times? Anyway, I don't want to argue. It was just a suggestion. I think that this is.
I'm very comfortable if you want to defer it. If you want to have an extraordinary meeting in 2 weeks' time.
I will not defer this motion. We did it last meeting, and here we are again. I think that I can agree with everything in here, but I cannot swear my word to it that I fully understand everything that is going on. I've got to be perfectly honest with you.
Yep. Deputy Mayor?
Just to be clear as well, so this will go to Gateway and then it will go on public exhibition, and then we will consider what the community says, and it will come back to council, correct?
Yeah, and I guess can I clarify, when would we be going through public exhibition? Are we through the CEO?
Through the Director of Planning and Compliance.
Through the acting CEO, I'll hand over to Luke Ostray, Coordinator of Strategic Planning, to run through the next main steps.
Thank you. Through the acting CEO, should this be endorsed at this meeting, it would then go to the department quite quickly for a gateway determination. It's difficult to know how long that would take. It would at least take a couple of months at best guess, if not a few. From there may be further amendments to be made that the department specify through conditions prior to exhibition. And then obviously we have to prepare all the exhibition material. Therefore, it's unlikely that it will be on exhibition this year. Potentially very late this year at best, more realistically early next year.
I guess, is there anything preventing us from notifying the community of what we're proposing to do, and start getting some views from them pre-gateway?
I can take that one. Through the acting CEO, we could launch a comms campaign to keep the community informed about what's in the pipeline before the official public exhibition commences.
Deputy Mayor?
I think that's a good idea. We've done things like this in the past with planning proposals and things like that before they've gone through the process to get some feedback. So I think that would be a good idea.
I think if you were going to do that, then you'd want to.
Okay, I would want to add a point 14. And I'm happy to take direction from staff about the best way to put that. But if we could have something around the word, around the initiate community information via comms, council comms team.
We can't direct the comms team.
Oh, sorry. Okay, initiates community information via council to inform the community of the progress of the LEP so that they are briefed prior to formal community consultation.
Initiates community consultation.
Yes, sorry, initiates community consultation via council.
Well, I'd remove via council, because council via council. Consultation to inform the community of the progress and proposed changes of the LEP. All right. Pre-gateway. And I'll say rather than brief, I'll say pre-gateway.
Prior to, we may not even need the prior to formal community consultation.
Yeah, just put pre-gateway.
Yeah, just remove that after pre-gateway. Thank you. Sorry, can I just double check that doesn't read that this is pre us sending to gateway? Can we write pre-gateway determination? Just so that that's clear. Is that okay?
I think you've done fine, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, any other speakers for or against?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, or the CEO, can we go back up to that point 8, I think it was? Have we got that right? We don't want people to think this is it, you know. We need them to think that we're looking for their input. And I don't know whether including but not limited, and I don't think that could we do it as 2 different motions, perhaps? Investigate possible gateway sites, entrance to the LGA, full stop, and then number 9, investigate key site development in regards to uplift and density. Would that make sense?
I think we leave it as it was. I think we're overcomplicating it. These are key development sites that are at the gateway and are including, because I'm happy for the community to know what we have thought about so far here, but not limited to, so that when they comment, they can also add their comments as well.
I'm not fussed. I'm just trying to make it
I think, leave that as point 8 as it was.
Yeah, so ultimately what this is saying is this is going to be sent off to Gateway, sorry. It's going to...
Is that to Gateway, is that the same as our last point that we put in?
Sorry.
Sorry, that go back to number 8 for us. Is that in conflict with that last point that we added to this motion?
No, from my understanding, no, because this is what we're saying now is let's send this off to the department, right, as is. Whilst that's happening, right, we will do community consultation, right, and we will also be investigating point 8. Here are the locations, but not limited to, right? And then from that, at some point in time, we think we'd get a report back to us that says, hey, we've investigated these sites, and here are some options of what you could do to encourage gateway development.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that, by doing the early engagement with the community, then we invite them to also take part in this early conversation as well.
Take part in number 8.
Councillor Goodman?
Just one last thing. For number 9, just before Northern, just put the word extend.
Extend. Can I... Oh, yep. Yep. Can I go to point 10 once that's done? So, request the Home of Housing. Can I add on to that council supports the New South Wales government? What it's actually called? The diverse and well-located housing reforms to be applied to the area around Edmondson Park train station. And for those who don't know what that is, that's the discussion that the government is having regarding zones within 400 meters and 800 meters of the train stations. If there's one area that we could support that, it could be Edmondson Park, because there's already a lot of there's already density there, and there's a few sites around that could probably do more. But I think areas like Casula and Holworthy Station are definitely, I believe, a no-no for that.
Just scroll back up the top for a second. it's just not described properly. Just for the record, it's diverse and well-located housing reforms. That's it.
Yeah. Maybe can we just do that as a different point and write to the Department of Planning? Yeah, the council write to supports New South Wales and writes to the Department of Planning. In support, yeah. Councillor Caliendo?
Yeah, can I make a suggestion in terms of that, and perhaps also explore ways to access the $200 million fund into improving green spaces and sporting facilities? I know that is a particular issue for the residents of Edmondson Park, so perhaps two birds, one stone would be useful.
Yep. So you think write to it as part of that letter, or? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that, can I just ask for clarity, is that actually the name of the fund, or is there something more proper that we should put there?
Considering it was announced today, I think it's pretty clear that that's what it refers to.
Is that?
Just for clarity again, I'm sorry. So we've got that as right to the Department of Planning in support of the New South Wales Government, blah, blah. And then we go and explore. So we're asking the Department of Planning to explore the 200 mil fund into green space and sporting facilities. Is that what you wanted to do?
No, as explore application of, application to... Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Part of a broader fund.
Can you put it to the vote now?
So I just want to clarify. So the state government released something today, very timely. The housing targets for the LGAs. And where are we on the list? So, from my understanding, that we need to deliver, was the number I said before? It was 16,000 plus dwellings, 16,700 dwellings in 5 years. And we normally do 1,700, so it's effectively a doubling of what we're doing at the moment. This LEP delivers an extra 10,000 dwellings as part of it, and what is already a very generous LEP. So I think number one, we're doing our job. We're not applying what other councils do, which is an NIMBYism, which is good. We're saying we'll support density in the right locations and the right form. We went out there during the election period and we said we're not going to have high rise in residential areas, in the Wattle Groves, in the Cecil Hills, in the Casulas, and this document now reflects that, where we've now lowered the height limits in those areas to what we believe the government would accept, and at the same time, whilst we're losing density in those areas, we're increasing density in the right areas. Ed Park is one of the locations, but also with the application of the medium density changes. So I believe this is a good thing that should be in any communication to the government. Ideally, it would be great if we can write to the government indicating before we send this out to Gateway, if we can get a letter to them in the next couple of days saying that we have responded to the housing targets and that we encourage them to support this LEP as quick as possible, whilst also the other planning proposals that would significantly add more residential opportunities in Liverpool. So if we can formulate that into another point, because I think it's important that the government knows that we are doing our heavy lifting. And I'm sure they have our letters for infrastructure already. So we probably don't have to add that again.
It was
So-
17, right?
16.
16.
That's a 16.
16.
Urgently write to the state government, informing them of our response to the housing targets and the increased dwelling capacity that this LEP will provide and encourage. Yeah, and encourage, yes, will provide and encourage its timely, what was the word? Transition through Gateway, as well as the other planning proposals that are in the system. All right.
Can't say timely approval through Great Gateway.
I'm happy.
Encourage them. I don't know.
Yeah, timely approval. Happy to get to the point. I'll say, and other planning proposals in the system.
So we need planning before proposals in the system. Insert planning.
All right. Anyone else have anything? Would the mover like to speak for a motion?
Very quickly, thank you for all of the work on this and even right up until the last minute today. So I thank all staff and my fellow councillors, and I urge you to support this so that we can get moving.
All right, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, we got to open up the voting, sorry. All right, sorry, if we can bring it back up before we vote. All right, so is everyone happy with the motion? Everyone read it? Councillor Carnegie, can you please indicate your vote, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that a yes, Councillor Carnegie?
Against, yes.
No, against yes, or are you voting in
Against,
favour?
against,
Okay, you're voting no for the motion.
yes.
Yeah. Everyone voted? That's it? Is that 10? Sorry, the numbers are very confusing. And it's 9. I voted. Whoops, sorry. All right, I declare the motion carried. Thank you. That's it, well done. Pretty much 2 years of work. Well done. Well done, everyone. Okay. Well, now, next item is COM 01, page 210, recommendation on, tab 6 with recommendation on page 210.
Happy to move that way.
Yep, seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it unanimous. Next item is COM 02, report back to council establishing a framework for community-owned and led community gardens, page 224. Tab 7, recommendation 224. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for the report that we did ask for. It's a bit disappointing to see that there hasn't actually been anybody put this forward for a community owned land, community garden, on council-owned property. I'm wondering whether or not, and this may not need to be done right now, but in the meeting, whether we could encourage some communications around the fact that we do have this option, and just so that the community is aware.
CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's absolutely, I don't think they know enough about the opportunity, so I think some communications to that effect would be advantageous.
Thank you. So I'm happy Thank you. I'm happy to receive and note the report, and if we could potentially put a point 2 to the motion that we implement some awareness campaign for the community regarding the opportunity to establish community gardens on community-owned land.
Just one second. Do you have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Calienda. Do you want to speak, Councillor Calienda?
I think that's actually a really good point that's been raised by Councillor McNaught. I know my office is currently supporting a group of residents who would like to establish community garden on council-owned land. I believe my office has been in contact with the acting CEO, and obviously there's an application process that some of our residents may find it a little bit difficult to navigate. So not saying that there shouldn't be a process, but it might be useful to have, maybe like a pop-up or an application assistance process to help people navigate that.
Yeah.
And through the CEO, I'd just make a comment to page 226 where you've got some engagement with the community.
So it's good that we've got the engagement there as well, but I think I'd love to see some people encouraged to actually apply to do this. We put a lot of work into getting the policy up and running. So, implement some awareness campaign. And I guess, as part of that campaign, it would be good to let residents know that, they can contact council for assistance with that application through our community team, but I can't say that, but through our channels.
I can, Deputy Mayor. We'll make it as easy and as seamless as possible. We'll get some advertising out, and if there are community groups who are having difficulty filling in our forms, we will assist them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor, will you say something? No. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, declare unanimous. Com 03, re-establishing a alcohol-free zone in Liverpool. Page 228, tab 8, recommendation 2 to 9. Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to bring people's attention to the information that we have in a memo, which is a rewritten form of this motion, and I thank staff for those changes. So it's actually in memo form in front of us here.
So you're moving the
And I'm
memo?
happy to move it that way as it's been updated.
Yep. So moved as per the memo.
Happy to second.
Seconded, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Hull.
Just a bit of an update on that. So while that policy is going to be extended, in the meantime, the existing policy applies. In other words, there's not a period where the alcohol-free zone doesn't apply. Does that there?
This is what
Beautiful.
I had.
All right. No further discussion? Want to go blast drink before it's too late? No? All right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare it unanimous. So let's go to the next section. Great. Next item is Corp 01, investment policy, page 233, tab 9. With the recommendation on page 233, moved Councillor Harl. Seconded Councillor Moon. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is Corp 02, investment report, April 2024.
Happy to move that way.
Page 260, tab 10, with the recommendation on page 261. Move Councillor Rhodes. Seconded Councillor Harl. Any discussion? Nope. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I'll declare it unanimous. Next item is Corp 03, 2023-24, Quarter 3 Budget Review. Page 270, tab 11, with the recommendation on page 271.
I have a couple of questions, Mr Chair. They might have to be taken on notice or online, I'm not quite sure. Under operations, oh, sorry.
Mr Mayor.
Yep, no worries. Yep, moved by Councillor Rhodes. Is there a seconder? Councillor Moon? Yeah.
No, that's okay, done.
My apologies. On operation item number 201734, Weed Action Project. It says it didn't go ahead. I was just wondering why didn't it go ahead, and how was the project funded? Was it a grant or was it allocated in the budget? Because we know we can't let our weeds get out of control.
I will take that on notice. My understanding it was a grant, but I'll take it on notice.
My second question is on rental income, number 201754, cow pasture saving and revenue opportunities. It's about the vacation of the two tenants in February 2024. And I'm just wondering, was that end of lease or was the lease early terminated? And where it's the 96,930, I'm assuming with it brackets that is deficit. Does that mean that represents lost income from rent that would have been paid that is now not being paid because there's no tenant there?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take that on notice. I think some of the leases were terminated, and you may be correct in relation to how that's represented.
And I have another question, sorry. I went line from line. I noticed Affleck Park, 102480, Park Development, savings due to reduction scope of works. There are 3 entries with the same number. It adds up to a $360,000 reduction from the previous $1,160,000 that was originally allocated for that project in the 2023-24 long-term financial plan. So I'm just wondering what that reduction, what does that signify?
Thank you, Councillor. We're in luck. We have John Lack here to talk to Affleck Park.
Through the CEO, thank you, Council, for your question. So in regards to the reduction in that portion of funding, that's the redistribution of those savings to other projects that could use those funding to bolster their budgets instead. That's the long and skinny of it.
I just want to ask regarding 600 cow pasture, the tenants. I know there were tenants in the warehousing section, and there were some tenants in the actual two-story office building. Are we asking them, the people in the office building, to leave? And if so, I guess, what's our plans for the area?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm the new Manager of Resource Recovery in Chambers today, so perhaps he could talk to some of those issues.
Through the CEO. So originally we were going to move on the tenants, but we worked around their tenancy agreements to with the DA that we're currently developing. So we're waiting for those tenancy agreements to expire, and then we're working around them. So,
Will we need that office space? Is that part of the plans for council to occupy?
correct. We'll need the office space.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Cool. Any other further discussion? No. All right. If not, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it unanimous. Next item is Corp 04. Amendment to Civic Expenses and Facilities Policy, page 306, tab 12, with recommendation on page 307. Moved Councillor Harle. Let's see. Did your hand go up? Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Seconded Councillor Goodman. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare it carried. Next item is Corp 05, Legal Services Policy, page 331, tab 13, with the recommendation on page 331. Moved Councillor Green, seconded Councillor Rhodes. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare it unanimous. Next item is City Futures 01, Stakeholder Engagement Strategy, page 346, tab 14, with the recommendation on page 347. Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Moon. Questions, Councillor Green?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was interested in Georges River, the Riverkeeper, and I just wanted some clarification, basically, on what reports does the Riverkeeper generate concerning the health or otherwise of the Georges River, and is there a reason why the reports are not tabled so that not only council are made aware of the status of the Georges River, but also the broader community? So I remember in our LEP review, the community survey, that residents reported strong support for the protection and preservation of our waterways, trees and bushland. So there is significant community interest, I would say, in the health of the Georges River and the actions or interventions that go towards continuous improvement in water quality and monitoring to ensure the cessation of industrial waste, runoff and discharge into the river. So in that spirit, I'd really like to to know what the reports are. I think that's something that we should. We're wanting to be known, and we talk about ourselves as the River City. So I think it's important that we know how healthy the river is and our streams and other waterways. So that's my question.
Thank you, Councillor. My understanding of the Georges River Keeper is it's rotational around council and we are hosting. The rest of the question I do not have the answers to. I'll have to take that on notice. My assumption is exactly the same as yours, our periodic reports, and where those periodic reports are delivered to particularly the host council, they should be tabled immediately and on community, for the community as well. So let me take most of the question on notice and I'll seek some answers for you.
Because I note that at the moment we're paying in $93,150, so it's a significant membership fee. So I think our community does deserve to know, and we certainly should know what the health of the river is and what the status is.
Thank you. My understanding of the pricing regime is it's cyclic, so when you host you pay the fee, but I'll clarify that as well. So it's not every year, it's not an annualised fee.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, if I can, to that. Councillor Hull and myself are on the Georges River Keeper. I think that the information that you're looking for is on the Georges River Keeper website, that they're quite comprehensive about the information they have there. I'm not sure if they get to that level of detail that you're after, which is probably a question to be taken on notice. But certainly we are provided through that association, as well as all of these other stakeholder associations, with minutes of meetings and things like that, which don't come to us as councillors. I mean, unless you're on West Rock, you don't see the West Rock minutes. So that's something that we should look at as a council, whether we want all of our association minutes tabled for the public to see as well. That would be something that is a broader project for us to do, and there's no reason not to do that, but that's not unique to the Georges River Keeper. But I can direct you to their website, that they do have a lot of information on there about the projects that they undertake along the whole river. So it's really interesting reading, and also, it'll be good for us to be hosting for the next couple of years as well, so that we can have a little bit closer to home and welcome those people into our LGA.
And can I ask then that the website be included in the minutes and promoted, because people don't know. I've had a number of conversations with people that are concerned about the Georges River. They want to see it cleaned up. They want to we're wanting to see kayaking and all the sorts of other water sports there. So, I do think that there is, quite significant community interest in the health of the river.
Thank you, Councillor Green. We'll make sure that happens. And just some great news about kayaking, since you mentioned it. Liverpool will have one of the world's leading disability kayak access facilities within the next 4 months.
Thank you. And I think it's important that we do include that website in the minutes, and perhaps for all of the organisations that we may, pending the outcome of this motion. But just in the meantime, if you just Google Georges River Keeper, the first thing that comes up is the Georges River Keeper website. So if anybody was interested, it's quite easy there.
Just for clarification, through the chair, just for clarification, are the West Rock minutes not published on the to the other councillors? The West Rock minutes of their meetings, are they not? Because I have got no way of knowing that, whether they do go to other councillors. I've always presumed they did.
We share the same presumption. I'll take it on notice and I'll make sure I'll make sure that they are.
Okay, thank you.
I think, that's important for all the associations that we belong to, because I assume I get them because I'm on West Rock, but I certainly don't get any of these other minutes.
The River Keeper does have regular, so it's available.
Is there any other further discussion?
I noticed that between the initial resolution of the Governance Committee and the resolution in front of us, the recommendation in front of us, The Committee for Sydney,
Are we into that? I'm sorry.
yes? Yeah, the committee.
Stakeholder engagement, yeah.
Yeah, the stakeholder engagement. The Committee for Sydney has kind of dropped off. I'm just confirming that the position of council is still to discontinue membership of the Committee for Sydney.
Yes, council, I can confirm that. Is to discontinue.
And if I can just make one final comment, if that's appropriate, that if I can thank staff for this report, because it's good to know, what to be able to quantify the value that we get from these organisations. So thank you to the City Futures Directorate and the staff.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it unanimous. Next item is committee reports. You have to move them through the chair, not through the CEO. Thank you. Moved as a whole, seconded Councillor Harrell, or?
Pull 1, Traffic Committee, please.
Okay, you're happy with that? All right, so you're happy to second it as long as we can pull the traffic committee? All right, so we'll move, we'll move the minutes as a whole except for the traffic committee. Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Hall. On any discussion? All those in favour? Oh, no, we're gonna get to the traffic committee. All those in favour? Against? I declare that unanimous. So number 1 is gone, number 2 is gone, number 3. Number 4 stays, number 5, 6, 7, 8 gone. So we'll now deal with item committee CTTE 04, local traffic committee minutes. Councillor Harrell, do you want to move anything or you want to?
Just a question.
Yes.
The perpetual problem of Grove Street, we on track to get that done?
Through the chair, we had the extraordinary meeting and everything was moved to progress it, and that should be included in the report. 392. So it's in the report, I
Through the
believe.
chair, I've read the report. I'm just asking, the dates are given as to when it starts. Are we on track to do that? Is there any delays envisaged, anything like that?
I've been advised that there isn't anything, through the chair, and they should have it done within 8 weeks. Yeah.
So how are we actually physically doing it? We're used to cutting ribbons and shoveling. Is it drop something, or are we putting up a sign?
It has to be delivered through the operations.
What's the physicality we're going to see there? The change?
My understanding is for the time being they're going to put dividers in between for right now, and eventually they'll come up with a design to actually close it off. So, yeah, water barricades or the concrete barricades.
Wonderful. All right. Do we have a mover of the minutes? Moved Councillor Harrell, seconded Councillor Moon. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare that unanimous. Next, we have questions with notice. Question 01. Just Councillor Harrell, sorry.
I'm happy with that.
Yep. Number 2, question 2, Councillor Green, page 467.
I just have one follow-up question.
Yep.
And I thank you for the staff for the breakdown of the cost. I was interested, was the preparation of the park, including the garden beds in the lead up to the opening, undertaken by council staff?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Was the preparation of the park, particularly including the garden beds, in the lead up to the opening, the Family Fun Day, was that undertaken by council staff or by contractors?
Can I ask, that's an operational question.
Oh, okay.
Is there, I guess, the relevance for us as the governing body?
Well, I think that, when we're looking at in terms of budget, we're wanting our staff to do as much of the work as possible. We should be quite prudent, I would have thought, in our use of contractors.
I just see that, I don't know, operational, but I'm happy if you want to answer that, CEO. I don't know if it's our role to get involved in, the grass cutting, but if you want to, by all means, yeah.
Operations will always look for the most efficient source of anything we do.
Is there any other, are you happy with that? Did you? Yep, thank you. Okay, next one is question 03, Councillor Green.
Yep, I was wondering, with the report, will that come back to council? In terms of the plan of negotiation between the hire at the moment and the care for the bushland? Or will that be included in the lease or the rental arrangement? So I guess that it's really clear that people who are using the park understand that the bushland is threatened and vulnerable, and that the signage and all is stays in place, and that going into that bushland is not permitted.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll ensure that the plan comes back through Council.
Can I just get some clarification on what you just said? Going through the bushland is not permitted? Was that what you said?
Well, I guess the bushland is it's Cumberland Plains woodlands, so it's vulnerable in terms of being mindful of because the report says that there was some damage to vegetation.
Can I just get clarification? Because, I spent a lot of time in my life growing up around in that neck of the woods and chipping on. So if there's bushland that's on council land, are we not allowed to walk through it as members of the public?
It's Cumberland bushland. It's protected bushland. It's vulnerable.
Can I get clarification? Because I thought we live in a free country and we can, if it's public land, we can walk through it.
It's not an issue, though, of whether it's public land. It's an issue of that the bushland that's on it is actually protected. There's only 2% of, only 2% of Cumberland bushland is in National Park. Liverpool has a significant number of the remaining 6% that is we're responsible for as a council. So, we don't want to be having damage to habitat, whether that's through either natural fauna and flora, where that's where they are. It's about preservation and how we care for and maintain that bushland.
But bushland that probably for 60,000 years humans have been walking through, our First Nations people have been walking through.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm going back to the point that the area bushland, the Cumberland Plain woodlands and bushlands are protected.
Yeah, but I get protected from development activity, but if somebody wants to go for a walk, you're saying you can't walk through bushland.
Can I just say, I think there's a little bit of confusion. So they're not, it's not a matter of people walking through it or not. It's about the damage that is done to it, whether it's through development or whether it is human interaction with the protected Cumberland Plain bushland. If you walk through a space and you damage really rare flora or fauna that exists within it, that's a loss to all of us as a community.
So once again, in simple terms, can we walk through the bushland or not?
Mr Mayor, I think that if you draw the attention to the last paragraph or the last thing, where council and club are working collaboratively on a plan that will support the archery club's activities without impacting on the environmental sensitive areas. So I think that explains it all, really.
once again, in simple terms, for those who are listening and watching, can we walk through bushland or not? Yes or no? Yes is here? Yes, yes, yes.
But are you damaging it in the process of doing so? Because
I don't know, yes or no, you're walking through it, right?
it's a pretty simplistic question, Mayor. Like, if you're,
A simple answer then.
I don't think they're allowed to form tracks.
are you damaging? Sorry, if I can say, if you are walking through the bushland and damaging the bushland whilst you're doing that, then that's probably frowned upon. But if you're not, if you're not damaging what you're walking through or what you're travelling through, then there's no issue there.
And that park is utilised by a lot of Liverpool citizens that are currently walking through that park. I repeat, it's not that they're not allowed to walk through, but you're not allowed to damage it. Well, I think this was more inclined, if I'm reading it correctly, we don't want trail bike tracks going through the park because that definitely, and we don't want jumps provided in them for them to jump with their trail bikes and things like that. So I think it's more how the land is utilised, and I think that last paragraph in connection with the club addresses that issue. The council's on top of it and they're going to be protecting the sensitive areas, the environmental sensitive areas within that bushland, and I think that's great.
So when you walk, so if I get this right, if there's a pathway and it's a dirt pathway with no fauna on it, so you're not stepping on fauna, that's acceptable. If you might step on fauna, that's the damage.
Flora
and fauna, sorry.
The animals will squeal.
Yeah. My apologies. Yeah, is that what we're getting at? Because if we're just going to lock up bushland and put fences around it so no one walks through it, because my understanding, having significant discussions with our First Nations community, that not only would they walk through every bit of Australia, but they'd also settle alight as part of their bush management, a backburning, which is part of First Nations culture.
But that's separate. What?
Like if they want to come and backburn in that area, are they allowed to? Because that's going to damage stuff. In your term of damage,
Mr. Mayor, that's all handled by council under operations.
Yeah. Anyway,
So I don't know why we're continuing on with this conversation.
I just want. No one told me yes or no. I wonder if I can walk through the bush.
You certainly can, Mr. Mayor.
You can?
I will go and walk with you.
Huh?
Damage it.
Huh?
You can walk through the bush, but you don't damage it. And
Can-
in my experience,
All right.
Councillor Rhodes, can you please turn your mic off?
Sorry.
In my experience, most people who go bushwalking and that's what they do. They're also respectful of the bush. So when you're walking through the bush, you wouldn't be tearing off branches of trees. You wouldn't be kicking rocks and things out of the way. I mean, I just asked a simple question: was the plan coming back to council? That's all I needed to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Clarity on walking through Cumberland Forest bushland. Are we allowed to?
I'd encourage all Australians to walk through bushland.
Thank you.
There is actually the state government does have a conservation publication on preservation and maintaining Cumberland Plain bushland, so that might be helpful.
Cool. All right. Next one is QWN 04. No, it's just there's no motions from there. No. Councillor Calienda. Page 472. Quarterly tender report. Yep. Question 5. Another your one again. Community engagement Cecil Hills. Page 485.
Just on this, I want to again reiterate the concerns and the disquiet that residents have had in relation to this. I imagine that has been communicated. And I also want to kind of get a sense of going forward what we've learnt from this process. And I don't think that the key issue sits within the Operations Directorate. I think the main issue and the disquiet that residents have felt has been in relation to the lack of engagement prior to the works being undertaken, and the lack of, their lack of information and just the just the suddenness with which it was all done without residents' views or understanding being taken into account.
Thank you, Councillor. I do concur as well. I think that was the important lessons learned. I might just hand over to the Acting Director of Operations just to give us 30 seconds on where we're up to with this one, because it has taken a lot of time and there's a lot of concerns about it.
Through the Acting CEO. So the biggest lesson learned out of this is the importance of communication, pre, during and post. And we learnt that from the first community meeting that we held that night, that you kindly arranged for us. And that was an important takeaway for us. So a number of things we've done in relation to that. We're still progressing with this particular project and working both with Michelle and also with Shane on how we continue to update the community, but also we are in the process of then undertaking a lessons learned, because there will be other significant works that need to occur in our LGA, and what can we learn from this experience and move that to the next. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask a question through the chair? The meeting on the 1st of May, I mean, I looked back through my calendar invites. Was there all councillors invited to that?
1st of May.
That was the date of the meeting, wasn't it?
The one in Cecil Hills?
Yeah.
You mean the 6th?
Oh, the 6th, was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Was there, were all councillors invited to that? Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. My understanding is it wasn't a council-initiated meeting. Councillor Calianda, was that?
I mean, through you, I organised it in response to residents contacting me directly. I didn't put it out to councillors, I'm sorry.
And so it's a bit hard for us to have it at the council meeting, because many of the councillors weren't aware that there was a meeting occurring, and, you know, as much information that we've got here is what we've got about the situation. Just saying that if it's going to be brought up in a council meeting, that all councillors should be invited to the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, was that meeting done through the chair? Was that done, Councillor Calianda, was that done through you personally as a councillor or as an MP?
Through my office.
Okay, so I believe we should have had an invitation. Let's not. Yeah,
It's not a state issue. It's like,
yeah.
No?
And maybe this is where there needs to sort of be a process or an understanding of how things like this would work and where something like this would come from. So perhaps, you know, something like that would be communicated through whether it's the CEO or through, you know, councillor, the council executive, whatever it might be. We obviously do have various parts of the council that send out things like meeting requests and so on and so forth. So, you know, perhaps that's a consideration going forward as well. So how there is broader engagement in future issues that occur, because I imagine that this isn't going to be the last time there is an issue that a lot of residents are unhappy about.
Sorry.
I'll just agree.
Deputy Mayor?
Apologies, I was out of the room for 3 minutes. We're talking about a public meeting that took place, correct? Is that what we're discussing? Was council staff there, or were you meeting just with... Okay. Okay, okay.
I think there's a little bit of confusion perhaps between the state member's obligations to her constituents and whether it is actually a council meeting. But understandable. I think that we can move on and correct the situation. If you don't intend bringing it to council and it is organised through your room, you know, I don't think that council can enforce that you actually invite the councillors. But if you intend to bring it into this forum You can't bring it into a forum when none of the councillors actually know about it, know what was said or
I
whatever.
believe a number of councillors know about what was going on.
Sorry, please, Councillor.
So through you, Chair, I believe a number of councillors were aware of it. It has gained extensive discussion and awareness via the community Facebook page. I've had discussions with Councillor Hull about it. I know other councillors have seen those discussions as well. So it is a very public issue. It's not something that was hidden from councillors or that was, intended to be hidden from councillors at all. It is a publicly available issue that was very live at the time.
Through the chair, I think that the point, and we've made it, is that if it is going to be brought up as a council issue in this forum, it is essential that councillors are invited and made aware of it, all councillors, not just some of them.
Well, and I think that was the intention of raising it as a question with notice.
Sorry, microphone, please, Councillor.
Through your Chair, I think that was the intention of raising it as a question with notice as well, because it is an issue that councillors may be asked about, and so it is obviously in the best interest of all councillors to understand the background and what's happened, as you can see in the responses, so that if any councillor is asked about the issue and what was done, you're now aware of it.
I think we're missing a point, but I'm happy to move on.
Councillor Harrell.
I just simply wanted to say, I don't care whether it was a council organised meeting or not, but I had a number of phone calls from some very, very irate residents. They wanted to know what was going on, and quite frankly, I think it was something that we need to be aware of in future. This is not the first time this has happened. This has happened on previous occasions, years gone by. The disadvantage of being a councillor for many years on council. But we had volunteer groups that had done a lot of work, and then council goes along and chops down all the trees, and you can imagine how that response was. So I think we need to be a little bit more aware of these things that are going on, the impact that could cause to residents. That's all. I think it's a storm in the teacup. It's over and done with. We need to be more careful in future, and I appreciate you bringing the matter to council. Thank you.
Councillor Goodman.
I believe we should just move on from this topic because I think it's tit for tat. The mayor organised the meeting with the Assyrian community and the Islamic community in the area. Councillors weren't invited, then this happened. So I don't think it should be happening like this.
Are you happy with the response, Councillor?
As long as there is an ongoing effort to sort of, put in place some of the things that we've learnt, very happy. Thank you.
Undertake to do so.
Okay, we'll move into the addendum book 4, CFD 02, public hearing report about the plan of management in Hammondville Park, which is book 4, page 1, 2, 3, 6. Book 4. Move Councillor Harrell, second Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it unanimous. Sorry. I voted against. Okay. Councillor Caliendo against. And Councillor Green. Okay. Next item is NOM 01, page 4A8, with the recommendation back into the agenda. Sorry. tab 28. So you're moving the motion, move Councillor Green, seconded Councillor Caliendo. Do you want to speak for your motion?
Yes, please. So looking at the stability in leadership is really important within the local government space. The building of relationships with key stakeholders, government agencies, having continuity is a strength, particularly in my experience in advocacy, as that helps maintain a focus on significant issues, particularly those that are linked to Liverpool's interests, such as the issues with the airport, with transport, things like that. It also provides stability for staff and, more importantly, for the community as well. And I'd just note that, when we look at the comparable councils, Blacktown Council, as their CEO has been in for over 10 years, Canterbury Bankstown CEO over 8 years, and Campbelltown City over 9 years. So I think at this point it would be prudent of us to have at least an understanding of the contributing factors to a high turnover. So if there are things that we need to change or things that we need to address, that at least by an independent investigation that can occur.
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Mayor? And it's potentially through you to the CEO. I'm not sure whether discussions of this nature are permissible or wise, or at this time while there's an ongoing local government New South Wales Office of Local Government investigation, which the terms of reference may align closely with some of these questions posed, and I don't want any of us to compromise an external investigation.
Could I make
I think it's a valid point.
an
Yes,
addition
Councillor.
to the motion?
Yeah, can we get the acting CEO?
I guess, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just a comment first is the terms of reference are clear, and to the extent to which this NOM overlaps is ambiguous. I might just refer quickly to the General Counsel for any general advice about this, if at all, because it's a little bit unclear.
I'm not sure there's a lot I can usefully say. A couple of things, I suppose. One is to echo what the acting CEO said, which is there's not an obvious overlap between the two. And I suppose the second thing to say, though, is one never knows quite where an investigation will go. So the terms of reference for the OLG investigation are clear, but what matters ultimately come out of that will be for the investigators. Of course, we would not want to prejudice that investigation. It's just not clear at the moment how this would do that. I'm not sure if there's much more I can say.
Can I put up a foreshadowed motion? I agree with the motion and that we could possibly get a lot of insight out of this, but I do believe that we have to defer this until we have the findings of the current investigations into council. So I don't know whether the mover and the seconder would be agreeable to deferring this matter until the findings of the current investigations are found, so that a clearer assessment could be made as to whether these questions might be answered. We don't know.
Are you referring to the OLG?
Yes, the investigations that are currently underway into council at the moment. What I am saying, Mr. Mayor, is that we don't know what is going to be the outcome of those investigations, and we don't know the overlap of what is prepared here. So I'm just saying that this motion should be deferred until the actual findings of the current investigations into council are found, or the findings are given back to council.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Just in the matter of being clear, how many actual CEOs has Liverpool Council had in the past 15 years?
Yeah, answer it, go for it.
I believe Liverpool Council has had 12 since 2008.
So you count an acting CEO as a CEO? Sorry, can you put your...
If they're acting in the role for an extended period of time, like the current acting CEO has ostensibly been, taking charge of the organisation in the interim, yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
So if the CEO goes on holidays and there's an acting CEO, we count him as a CEO, is that what you're saying?
That's part of the 12. That's what's been counted.
I believe that's very separate to where there is not a substantive CEO in place. So, there are two situations where an acting CEO is present. One is where the substantive CEO is on leave, and another where a substantive CEO has either been stood down or there is no substantive CEO.
So would we, so do we count Mr. Brereton now as within those 12 but the actual CEO has not been terminated or anything, he's just on leave? He's not stood down. He's on leave.
Well,
Can I second the foreshadowed motion, please?
Yep.
I'm really uncomfortable with this.
Sorry. Do you want to put your microphone on, please, Councillor?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just feel that we might be getting into discussions here that because when an investigation is called, you're not supposed to discuss these matters. So I would like you to agree that we certainly look at this, but after we finish the current investigations and we have the findings brought back to us. I think that's the only sensible thing that we can do. If an investigation was called into any one of us councillors, definitely we would not be able to discuss it. Now, that's the requirements of councillors, and I think this should be treated in exactly the same vein.
I'm happy to take.
Yeah,
So you're happy to...
Yep, I'm happy.
So-
I don't know if we're deferring it and we'll look at it later then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I...
My intention...
Sorry, can you microphone on, please?
My intention to dispel maybe what concerns people have is just purely as a learning, to get to learn and to move on, and hopefully into a period of stability. So that's just my troubling, but I'm happy to support the deferment.
Can I recommend in doing so, firstly, to answer your question, Councillor Moon, the number that I've counted is actually 6. No? Providing a clarification. In doing so, can I recommend that this look at two things? Look at staff turnover as a whole, as opposed to just one particular position in the organisation, because it's just as relevant. I know your point about leadership, but every one of our team members is a leader in their own right, in whatever it is. So I think if you're going to get a proper picture, I think we should be looking at overall staff turnover, number one. And I think if we're going to do it, then we might as well just go from 2000 as a round number and go from there, because I don't know the relevance of 2008.
I take your point, because I think your corporate knowledge is really important. I'd be happy to include staff if that's what you'd like to do.
So then,
again, and defer, as I understand it, deferring it until after the OLG investigation has been concluded.
So we defer it. We make it about. We also add onto it the overall staff turnover from the year 2000. Is the seconder happy with that? I'm just wondering why you chose 2008. I'm saying if you go from
just after coming out of administration.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't around before, administration. So looking at, well, you know, from when we came out of administration in 2008 until now.
Yeah.
I believe there would be more value in looking at the organisation after 2000 because having an administrator in place, you know, significantly changes the structure of an organisation, the interaction between an elected body and the operational or organisational body. Therefore, it would be more relevant to the questions that we're actually trying to find out and, you know, more meaningful of a report if we were to look at from 2008 onwards rather than muddy the waters by including from 2000 to 2008. I just don't see the relevance of including that period of time.
I think it actually provides a good insight into, because 2000 to 2004, there was a council, and then 2004 to 2008, that's when administration was there. So it provides a good, something to benchmark off of, so to speak, and then what's happened afterwards.
I think I have to agree. I think organisation is organisation, and we should, if we're going to look, we should look holistically at what's happened.
Yep. Yep. Cool. All right. So, all right, we have the motion for deferral as per the above. And it should say that the council defer them. All right.
If that is now the motion, just convert all that down into that and then have the deferment. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And include overall stuff. Okay. Cool.
Does this come? It's on. Just for clarification, does this come back to council before the investigation happens, or is it just going to go on?
Deferring it till afterwards.
It's got to come back to council before the investigation happens, or is the investigation just going to happen?
After the investigation.
After.
We'll go ahead.
Cool. Okay. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Next, we move into confidential. That we go into closed session to discuss the 4 items plus another 5th item. And I'll move it that we go into confidential item pursuant to sections 10A2C of the Act, 10A2DI of the Act, and one sec. We're not in closed session yet. Keep the door open, please. Pardon? I'll pass it in a moment. Yeah, and section 14, the other one is section 14.1A of the Code of Meeting Practice, which reflects section 14.1, 10A1 and 10A2 of the Act, of the Local Government Act, New South Wales. I'll move that way. Second, Deputy Mayor. All those to move into closed session to discuss these 4 items and an item which I'll pass to you shortly, because they're confidential items regarding staffing matters, regarding tendering, and there's a few questions in here about purchasing property, because they may defer commercial advantage on people, and if would prejudice commercial position of council is one of the other items, and because it is where is the other one? Sorry. A personnel matter concerning particular individuals other than councillors. So moved, seconded, Deputy Mayor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. All right. Yep, no problems. That's fine. The staff can stay until we get to for the current items, but we have to make sure, just confirm that we're not live streaming anymore. Is that on the screen? Can we get that up on the screen, please? What they call it, 12, Conf 03. Accepts tenders from the below listed contractors for RCL 3258 stormwater range rehabilitation works for initial 2-year contract term with the option of a 3 times 12-month extension. Portion A, CCTV inspection and condition assessment. And you have all the providers listed there. Makes public a decision stormwater drainage pipe rehabilitation works. 3, authorizes CEO or delegate do all the things necessary to give contracts with effect. And 4, keeps confidential details supplied in this report upon containing information. Submissions received pursuant to sections 10A2D1 of the I of the Local Government Act, as it contains information confidential disclosed, would confer commercial position on those who supplied it. Last one.
You done?
I think there was one more, wasn't there? Yeah. Conf 04 1216, page 12126. No, great. Recommendation that council adopt a reservation that council approves the purpose of tender requirements under section 553I of the Local Government Act. The procurement in ground lighting services, the right source of control is a satisfactory result not being achieved by the inviting tenders for the following reasons. A, WSIG funding for projects and contingent upon certain milestones. B, council's events program would impinge upon implementation of lighting. 3, light source controls is the sole provider of Felix product identified in Australia. And that being said, it was resolved. And last. And the last ones, we're getting to a staffing matter that council pursuant to section 10, clause 10.4 of the employment contract, council terminate the employment of contractor Mr. John Ajaka, CEO of council, without notice and immediate effect. 2, council writes to make Ajaka informing of council's decision and issues attached without delay. And 3, Jason Breton continue as acting CEO and higher duties up for a period of up to 12 months. On being put the motions, all those motions were resolved. And is there anything item further to discuss?
What are the alcohol-free zones? I think I need some alcohol. It is free, isn't it?
Cool. Great. So I understand is there a rescission motion? Do we have? Has any rescission motions been received? Can I have it, please? Yeah, has it been sent?
No, it'll be lodged with the CEO.
Yeah. Yeah, has it been sent? Has it been lodged yet? I'm just trying to clarify. Okay. Yep, but has not been lodged. No? Okay, great. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone.